year and a half ago, the original Dead Island released shortly after a phenomenal yet mostly unrelated trailer that provided some false hype. The game sold very well, and why wouldn't it, considering it seems like lately zombies are the new vampires, if you catch my drift. Critically, the game didn't fare quite as well. Most complimented the concept, but ragged on the lackluster graphics and glitches. Wasting no time on pumping out a sequel to follow the original success, Dead Island Riptide came to be. Question is, how is it? Well, let me put it this way, Riptide plays more like an expansion or DLC than it does an actual sequel, yet sequel is what it's supposed to be. Funny though, because I've never got as heavy a sense of deja vu until this game came along. The story picks up right where the last one left off, and newcomers to the series are brought up to speed on what has transpired by a very to-the-point cutscene. Our band of immune misfits once again must fight their way through a seemingly endless onslaught of undead in an attempt to overcome the zombie apocalypse. Players can expect about the same from the story department in this newest entry. By that I mean the story is mostly unimagined and predictable, yet for some unknown reason it's still somewhat interesting. Cinematics appear outdated and are poorly executed, which in turn do not help the story come along. Dialogue once again is very hit and miss, although missing more than hitting. I found myself watching all the actual cinematics, but when it came to talking to NPCs in-game, I skim-read the dialogue, and when I wasn't doing that, I was just outright skipping through it. None of it was interesting enough to be granted my full attention. The people in the game, well, to be straightforward, are really boring. One would think, with a full-out zombie apocalypse going on outside, they would be more fun to listen to. In-game graphics can pretty much be classified as identical to the first Dead Island, which, if you remember what I mentioned earlier, was criticized for having poor graphics. Personally, I really don't mind how this game or the one that came before it looks. I'm rather fond of its cartoonish, gory charm. Considering the scope of the game, I think that they are more than acceptable. Although in opposition, I do think that given this is supposed to be a sequel, the graphics should have gotten an overhaul. The only changes I noticed were some very minor ones to the menu screens, some slight improvements on the blood effects, and I think the lighting looked a little better, but that might be a stretch. Other than that, there's not much to say. Most of the objects from the first game were just recycled and used in this entry. The locations are different, although majority of the game takes place in the jungle, which is very reminiscent of the first island location from the original. Although that's not necessarily a bad thing, because everyone I've talked to preferred that location opposed to the later areas featured in the game. From the start, the player is given the option of either loading their high-level character obtained from the first installment, or choosing from the same 5 characters and starting fresh like I did. Allowing people to transfer over characters was perhaps one of the few smart moves done by the developers. Everybody loves knowing that their hard work and time put into a game wasn't for nothing. Anyways, if you start fresh, your character actually is jump-started to level 15, and the overall level cap is now 70. As soon as you are in control of whichever character you chose, the sense of deja vu I spoke of will instantly begin to set in. I'll start trying to name all the changes I noticed to the gameplay, which actually isn't as hard as it should be. Kicking now seems to be less effective, the stamina bar appears to be a bit more generous, looting bodies is now instantaneous instead of having that split-second delay, the map looks a tad better, sadly the mini-map is still as undetailed as ever. Defense-inspired missions and a couple new zombie types are added. Also, boats can now be driven along with cars. Out of all these changes, I'd have to say the boat is the biggest addition. Plus, if you charge 100 infected with your boat, you are granted a very generous 90-point achievement. Good luck trying to turn it though, hope you enjoy 3-point turns. Oh, one thing I forgot is some animations have changed ever so slightly, although for some reason most of the interactions required, activated by the X button, still lack any character animation whatsoever. I do have to say that I encountered fewer issues with this game at its launch than its predecessor, so I guess it is more polished, but that doesn't prevent the occasional graphical hiccup. The game is set up exactly how the previous game was, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, seeing as the formula worked wonders the first time around. Combining action, zombies, and open world with RPG elements will probably never get old. Leveling up is as addicting and rewarding as needed. More addicting is the collecting of rare, unique, and powerful weapons to enact gruesome acts upon your foes. Managing inventory and keeping track of weapons is necessary, yet for some reason still kind of a hassle. Not because doing it bothers me, but because I don't feel that comparing weapons and finding which ones are ideal is as fluid or simple as it should be. What is ideal though is the amount of weapons able to be assigned to your character and held in your inventory. Something I still personally feel could be done away with is melee weapons becoming damaged and constantly needing to be repaired. I mean, come on, nobody in their right mind actually enjoys having to repair their weapons after every mission. Plus, if the developers need something for the players to spend their cash on, then they should come up with a more in-depth weapon upgrade system. I mean, they're already sort of on the right track with being able to build custom mods, but if they were to include something similar to the upgrade system introduced in Dead Space 3 and completely got rid of having to repair weapons, then they would be golden. That would allow people to truly feel that the weapon is unique to them, which is what people want. They want to be able to create something that other people don't have. Bum rushing the game's main plot will take roughly 9 hours, or at least that's how long it took me starting with a fresh character. After doing so, I was right around level 40, I think. The game notifies you right before its end that if activating the last mission, you will no longer be able to explore the island. Even if you do choose to end the game, you are able to start up a brand new campaign with your same character and inventory. So it's not a big deal, you'll just have to redo missions that have already been completed. This is a game a lot of people won't want to just put down because they finished the campaign. No, they'll want to try to hit the max level cap, complete the extra side quests, and find the many different collectibles. Like its predecessor, the game features drop in and out co-op. As expected, playing cooperatively with friends can be a blast, and from what I've noticed, tends to make the game easier. Solo play is equally enjoyable, so don't feel pressured into needing people to play it with. Actually, more than likely, someone will end up joining your game anyways unless you disable that feature. 3 times during the main plot, someone would join me on my missions. Dead Island Riptide seems to be nothing more than an almost exact replication of the original, which causes it to not actually feel like a sequel. If you can get past the obvious disappointment of not getting any real, yet much needed improvements, then you will once again get to experience some fun zombie slayage with your friends. This game once again proves that the unique RPG-esque formula with zombies can create an awesome experience for the player. Being able to transfer your high-level character over to this game was a well-made decision. Graphics remain outdated and gameplay flaws remain. Technically speaking, out of the two, I still found this one to be the better game. Just tread carefully on making your decision to purchase the game. Make certain that you are okay with experiencing a lot of deja vu. If you loved the first game and couldn't get enough of it, then you will likely still enjoy this game. Actually, you may not even care that this is far from a true sequel. Dead Island Riptide gets a 7.5 out of 10.